Reborn in this villain role, I will play it to the fullest. My fiancé and my own brother have hated me for 10 years. They always believed I was the one who bullied the white flower they cherished. At my engagement ceremony, they publicly exposed my so-called crimes in front of everyone. She's the one who bullied classmates, a piece of despicable trash. During a live stream broadcast across the entire internet, the white flower teared up, smiling gently. I won't blame her anymore. Looking back, the light boat had already drifted across 1,000 mountain ranges. Overnight, she became famous. And I, condemned by the whole world, doused with acid by extreme fans. I fell into despair. In the end, I chose to drag her down with me to die together. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to 12th grade. The white flower in front of me was pouring water over her own head while smiling sweetly. Have you figured out how you're going to apologize to me yet? I immediately went mad, grabbed her hair, dragged her into the bathroom, and shoved her straight into the toilet bowl. Let me teach you what real bullying means. With such a filthy mouth, remember to rinse it before tattling. The last memory of my previous life was the burning pain of sulfuric acid splashing into my eyes, scorching every cell, gnawing away my life. I clenched my teeth through the agony, tearing my nerves apart second by second. Through blurred vision, I saw her, Rachel, being shielded behind my brother's back. Rage surged, and I snatched the cake knife, charging madly forward. The icy blade stabbed straight into her heart. Let's go to hell together. I opened my eyes. The scene before me was so vivid it was terrifying, no blurred vision, no deathly pain. I held still for 2 seconds until I saw not far away, Rachel, looking much younger, standing under a faucet. She wore a faded school uniform, twisting the tap to let water pour over her head. As she drenched herself, she smiled brightly. Her eyes sparkled with provocation. Guess what, will they believe me or you? A second later, I realized, this was that very day, the day every tragedy of my past life began. Seeing me stand frozen, Rachel's lips curled deeper, her voice slow and mocking. Thought it through yet? How do you plan to apologize to me, young lady? I didn't reply. In an instant, fury boiled over. I lunged, yanked her hair tight, and dragged her straight into the bathroom. Screams pierced the hallway, but I didn't care. Amid Rachel's terrified shrieks, I pressed her head hard into the toilet. Just splashing water and you dare try to frame me? Fine, let me show you what real bullying is. Rachel thrashed wildly, arms flailing as if powered by some motor, yet she couldn't break free from my grip. Her face was forced into the filthy water, her mouth sputtering muffled sounds. Glub, glub, cough. I threw my head back, laughing loudly. With a dirty mouth like this, make sure you rinse it clean before tattling. Whether this is the past or just an illusion after death, I don't care anymore. This time, I'll play it to the end. In my previous life, I died on what should have been the most glorious day of my life. That day, I won my 3rd Best Actress trophy, dressed in a high-end gown, walking arm in arm with my fiancé Ethan Graves, my childhood sweetheart, at our grand engagement ceremony broadcast live across the internet. Right in that dazzling moment, he gripped the microphone, his cold voice echoing before millions of viewers. I will absolutely not get engaged to someone who bullied classmates all throughout high school. I froze, unable to believe what I'd heard. At that moment, Rachel walked out from the audience. Her eyes glistened with tears, lips curved in a gentle smile. Isabella Locke, do you still remember me? I am Rachel Linwood, the one you bullied for 10 years. You probably never imagined the day would come when you and I stood as equals. But it's fine, I don't blame you anymore. Looking back, the light boat has already sailed past 10,000 peaks. Her words were broadcast live to the whole internet. In that instant, she skyrocketed to fame, becoming the pure goddess adored by all. Before I could even react, a swarm of reporters, arranged beforehand by Ethan Graves and my brother, rushed in to surround me. "Miss Locke, it said you still keep the habit of bullying newcomers even on film sets. Rumor has it you were caught visiting a gynecology clinic. Was it because of your promiscuous private life that you contracted a disease?" Before I could speak, a crazed fan in the crowd charged at me, holding high a bottle of acid, screaming hysterically. "This filthy woman should just die." The icy liquid splashed onto my face. The searing pain burned my skin like fire. I screamed in despair as my vision blurred completely. From heaven to hell in the blink of an eye. In that fading moment, Rachel Linwood collapsed to the ground, her breath as fragile as silk. Her face, always feigning innocence, was now smeared with filth. I couldn't help but laugh aloud. Cry, scream louder. Go parade that face around and tell everyone I bullied you. Why haven't you gone yet? My voice rose unconsciously, remembering the feeling of my face dissolving in acid. In my past life, I had stomped hard twice on her face before finally turning leisurely to leave. Downstairs, Sophie Torres was waiting for me. "Gym class started ages ago. What took you so long?" I answered casually. "Oh, just bullying the new student a little." Her eyes widened. "What?" I smirked. "Napoleon once said, when the whole world sees you as a bully, you'd better play the part well." Wait, did Napoleon really say that? Does it matter? I walked with Sophie Torres to the sports field. As soon as we arrived, I ran right into Ethan Graves. He wasn't in my class, but the whole school knew he was Isabella's childhood sweetheart boyfriend. Ethan glanced at me, then, as if unintentionally, looked at someone behind me. "Isabella, why are you late? I heard your class got a transfer student." In my past life, whenever Rachel fabricated lies to slander me, he always pretended to be the mediator trying to ease the situation. But in truth, with just a few words, he nailed the label of bully firmly onto me. Just thinking about it, I couldn't be bothered to say more. I raised my hand and slapped him hard across the face. For the second time, Sophie Torres was stunned, staring at me as if I were possessed by a demon. Yet Ethan Graves didn't show the slightest anger. He only narrowed his eyes slightly, a cold glint flashing deep within them. Then, he calmly lowered his head, brushed his cheek against mine, and spoke in a soft, intimate tone. "What's wrong, Isabella? Are you in a bad mood today?" In my past life, I only learned the truth much later. Ethan Graves had been abandoned by his biological mother at an amusement park when he was a child, then placed in an orphanage for a while. There, he met a girl full of light. She shared the same bed with him, once gave him a piece of candy. She was the only light in his life. And that light was Rachel. The first day she transferred to our school, he recognized her immediately. From then on, he never doubted a single word she said. Every time she played the pitiful victim and accused me of bullying her, he believed her without hesitation, hating me to the bone. But because he was an illegitimate child, he had to swallow his rage, pretending to be obedient and curry favor with me. Because he needed our marriage to secure his position in the family. Thinking of this, I spoke indifferently. "Let's break up." Ethan Graves froze, his pupils contracting. "Why? Give me a reason, Isabella." Quietly, I pulled out a tissue and slowly wiped the part of my face he had just brushed against. Bit by bit, unhurried, then I smirked. "I don't want to date the son of a mistress. I feel dirty." Is that reason enough? After I walked away, Sophie cautiously turned to me. "Are you possessed or something?" I wasn't surprised she asked that. Back in high school, Isabella had once loved Ethan Graves with all her heart, fiercely and sincerely. Every day after class, I would wait patiently for him so we could go home together. I had once burned my hands baking cookies for him, yet still smiled brightly as I handed them over. My favoritism was so obvious the whole world knew. But now things were different. The Isabella of 12th grade was already dead. Standing here now was an Isabella who had already died once and crawled back from hell. This was the dark Isabella. The whole day passed, yet Rachel never showed up. I knew clearly what she was most proud of, her face. If she couldn't use it to her advantage, she wouldn't act rashly. But I had enough patience to wait. Soon, Saturday came, the day of my 18th birthday. My parents had promised they would throw a grand party to celebrate my coming of age. But an urgent issue at the company forced them to arrive late. Under the dazzling crystal lights, I wore a high-end evening gown, gracefully descending the spiral staircase. From afar, I spotted my brother, David Locke. He wore a tidy suit, his face still calm and cold as always, staring straight at me. "Isabella, come here." I smiled and walked over, pretending not to notice Ethan Graves' dark gaze behind him, nor Rachel's pitiful tear-streaked face. My clear, soft voice rang out. "What's the matter, brother? Did you prepare a birthday gift for me?" David Locke stayed silent for a few seconds, his eyes icy. Then, in a deep voice, he said, "Bullying classmates, insulting friends, Isabella. Is this how the Locke family raised you?" His voice was not quiet. Instantly, every gaze at the party turned toward us. I blinked lightly, my tone feigning innocence. "What are you talking about? I don't understand at all." Turning, I looked deliberately at Rachel with a puzzled expression. "Who did I insult? I've never bullied anyone, and I don't even know her." David Locke curled his lip, his voice stern. "Even if you deny it now, it's too late. Do wrong, and you must pay the price. Since mother and father aren't here, I'll discipline you on their behalf." With that, he reached out to pull a wooden ruler from the antique bookshelf beside him. His eyes swept over me, his voice cold and deliberate with each word. "Kneel." In the vast hall, countless eyes focused on me, filled with anticipation for a good show. What? Bullying classmates? For the daughter of the Locke family to do something like this? Tisk, spoiled since childhood, it's normal she can't stand others being better than her. At least her brother is stepping up and not covering for her. Under Rachel's triumphant and mocking gaze, I stood tall, unwavering. The corner of my lips lifted as I smiled sarcastically. "What the hell are you saying, David Locke? People might think you're my brother, or they might think you've been possessed by some ghost from the Qing dynasty." I tilted my head, my eyes sharp, each word clear and deliberate. "In this life, I kneel only to my ancestors." Pausing for a moment, I lazily swept my gaze up and down his figure, then let out a malicious laugh. "How about this, you go outside and jump off a building right now. I'll kneel 3 times immediately to see you off." David Locke's face instantly darkened. At that moment, Rachel stepped forward from behind, feigning weakness, speaking softly. "Isabella, I know you don't like me. It's fine if you bully me. But how can you say such things to your own brother?" She widened her glistening eyes, pretending to be innocent. Ethan Graves, standing beside her, his eyes shadowed with something unreadable, spoke slowly in a calm, patient tone, as if advising me. "Isabella, if you've done wrong, just admit your mistake. There's no need to." I immediately widened my eyes, pretending awkwardness, my tone annoyed. "Sorry, I don't understand dog barking. Can you repeat that in human language?" "Enough." David Locke barked, his voice sharp, his eyes dark. "Isabella, you're a girl, do you even know what shame is? Who taught you to speak and behave so rudely and without manners?" As in my past life, no matter what I said, he would never believe me. Always biased, always eager to nail me to the pillar of shame, never giving me a chance to explain. I smirked slightly, mimicking his cold tone, and replied casually. Mother and father are always busy, they don't have time to manage me. Guess who taught me this? I laughed, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Of course it was you, my dearest brother. In my previous life, I was always afraid of but also cherished David Locke. He was much older than me and, in my heart, was always a dignified older brother. When we were young, our parents were busy with work, so he was the one who disciplined me. As long as I made the slightest mistake, my hands would be struck with a wooden ruler, and sometimes I'd even be punished by being made to go hungry for an entire day. Once, I picked up a fluffy little stray dog and brought it home. He stood coldly at the door and wouldn't let the housekeeper open it for me. Something that filthy, this house doesn't welcome such things. Confused, I hugged the little dog and sat quietly on the steps the whole night. Back then I was too little, I always thought his personality was just cold like that he didn't know how to be gentle with a younger sister the way other brothers did. It wasn't until Rachel appeared that I fully woke up. It wasn't that he didn't know how to be gentle, it was that the person he wanted to be gentle to, wasn't me. I once saw him sitting in his car, handing Rachel a cup of hot milk, his hand gently rubbing her hair, his voice low and tender. Remember to eat 3 meals a day. If you don't have money, you still have me. I also once saw Rachel cradling a skinny stray cat in the rain. And he, holding an umbrella over her, asked softly, "Do you want to keep it?" When she was drunk, clutching the corner of his shirt and babbling nonsense, he wasn't annoyed at all, he listened patiently, his eyes full of gentleness. In my previous life, I drowned in my own illusions, constantly asking myself, why doesn't my brother love me, why doesn't my fiancé take my side? But after being reborn, I finally understood completely, I am an independent person, even without love, I can still live well. In the end, the birthday party couldn't be completed smoothly. While David Locke and I were locked in a tense standoff, my parents finally returned. They remained calm and courteous, thanking and seeing each guest out. Just when I thought Rachel would seize the chance to continue her pity performance in front of my mother, she merely smiled faintly and cut Rachel off completely. "I'm sorry, young lady, but matters of the Locke family will be handled by us. Please leave for now." Rachel froze, as if her words were stuck in her throat. She quietly looked up at David Locke, her eyes glistening as if on the verge of tears, but in the end she could only turn and leave. After the house was left with only David and me, my father finally looked at the two of us and said in a deep voice, "All right, now explain clearly what exactly happened." I didn't wait for David to speak, I seized the chance immediately. Recently, a transfer student arrived at my school. On the very first day of class, she poured water over her own head and then screamed like crazy that I had bullied her. After that, I learned she was the girl my second brother has always sponsored, a poor student named Rachel. As soon as I finished, David lifted his head, his eyes full of astonishment. "Surprised, aren't you, David? Did you think I didn't know about the two of you secretly seeing each other?" I dabbed lightly at the corners of my reddened eyes, my voice a little choked, my expression so aggrieved that anyone would feel moved. In truth, I've never blamed her. It's just a birthday party, so what? I only feel really sad, why didn't David believe me? In this world, it isn't only Rachel who knows how to play the role of a fake girl. Amid the heavy silence, my father's voice rang out with authority, enough to halt all further argument. Enough. No matter who's right or wrong, this matter will not be blown up any further. If word gets out, it will reflect badly on both of you. It ends here. Back at school, I began openly bullying Rachel. I poured black ink into her desk drawer, mocked her when she read English with a slight accent. I tore up her physics test paper and sprinkled the confetti over her head. "Go on, keep tattling. Isn't that your specialty?" I sneered. A small scrap of paper drifted down from her hair. She looked up at me, a flash of venom glinting deep in her eyes, cold to the bone. But in the end, all she could do was tremble, tears rolling down her cheeks as she muttered please. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Isabella. If there's anything that made you unhappy, I admit my fault. I'll change, okay? I blinked, tilted my lips, and smiled with interest. Your very being makes me unhappy. So how do you plan to change that? Going to carve your name on a headstone right now? She opened her mouth as if to say something but couldn't get the words out. In the end, all she could do was keep crying. For the first time, I felt that being the villain was actually exhilarating. Of course, she still tattled to the teacher. The teacher called me to the office. Silently, I wiped the corners of my eyes. They were red as I tearfully recounted what happened at the birthday party. Finally, I gently produced a hospital certificate. That day, because of her slander, my brother humiliated me in front of so many people. Every time I remember it, I start crying again. I often wake up at night from nightmares. I'm currently seeing a psychologist and taking medication. The doctor said, I have severe depression. In the end, the teacher actually had to comfort me. Everyone could clearly see one thing: I hated Rachel to the core. Sophie frowned, baffled. What kind of grudge do you have against her? What did she even do to you? I tilted my head back and gave her a radiant smile. Can't it simply be that I'm a bad person who looks down on a poor transfer student because I'm rich? Cut the comedy, Sophie shot me a withering look. If you were that kind of person, then why don't you bully me? My family's poorer than hers. From the very first day we became friends, you covered all my school supplies for 3 years of high school. If you expect me to believe you bully classmates, you might as well ask me to believe I'm the third Hokage. You think I don't know what kind of person you are? Exactly. Something so simple, anyone could understand. But only my brother and the man I once loved did not. I curled my lips slightly, though there wasn't the least bit of a smile in my eyes. In 1 month, the school's 100th anniversary celebration would arrive. In my past life, at that very event, under the arrangements of David and Ethan Graves, Rachel performed a solo piano piece. Thanks to that performance, she caught the eye of a special admissions instructor and won the sole direct admission spot. And me? I had started learning dance at the age of 4 and persisted for more than 10 years. I was supposed to perform a classical dance at the ceremony. But then, Ethan Graves came to me. As sunset fell over the campus, he gently wrapped his arms around me, his low voice tinged with pampering possessiveness. Don't participate, okay, Isabella? I don't want too many people to see you so beautiful. I'll get jealous. Just dance for me alone, will you? How foolish I had been back then, even feeling intoxicated with joy, thinking it was because he cared for me. So, on the day of the anniversary celebration, I really didn't go on stage. In a quiet practice room, I danced again and again, for a single audience, and that audience was him. The music stopped. From the distant main hall came thunderous applause like rolling storms. Hearing it, Ethan Graves suddenly laughed. His smile was always gentle, always carrying a hazy mist, as if nothing in this world could stir his heart. But that time, I saw his emotions waver, clearly. So, foolishly, I stopped and curiously asked, Are you very happy? He paused slightly, then nodded. Happy. At that moment, I thought, he was happy because I had danced only for him. But much later, I realized, he was happy because Rachel's performance had been a great success. Because the only light in his life had finally gained a brilliant future. This time, I applied for the program early, but not for a solo dance. I gathered all the girls in my class interested in performing and choreographed a group classical dance. I paid from my own pocket to hire an instructor, ordered the most expensive costumes, and prepared custom-designed props. Compared to Rachel's solo piano piece in a simple white dress, our program was dazzling, spectacular by many times over. I don't know what sob story she told David, but that evening, when I came home from school, he was already waiting in the garden, blocking my way. Isabella. David stared at me, his face expressionless. Your program for the anniversary celebration, cancel it. I chuckled lightly, raising my brows in provocation. David, what nonsense are you barking this time? His lips curled, eyes filled with icy mockery. Don't think I'm negotiating with you. If you insist on performing, bear the consequences yourself. I stopped, stared straight into his gloomy eyes, and slowly said each word. Second brother, your beauty has studied piano for over 10 years, yet she has no confidence to share a stage with me? I tilted my head, the corner of my lips lifting in sarcasm. Truly pathetic. With not much time left before the anniversary, Ethan Graves sought me out. Isabella, he looked at me, his gaze complicated. What happened before was my fault. But you've blocked every way of contacting you and refused to meet me. I don't know what's going on. Isabella, have you misunderstood me, or do you like someone else now? As he spoke those last words, his voice carried an obvious note of pain. But you yourself once said, you would always only love me the most. A sharp mix of fury and pain suddenly flared in my heart. In the past, I had truly loved him for so many years. He said he disliked me filming kissing scenes, so I refused countless offers from top directors. He said Rachel had a pitiful life, bullied in the orphanage, and told me not to be too hard on her. I forgave her again and again for deliberately provoking me. All I ever wanted was to exchange sincerity for sincerity. But what I received was slander and hatred lasting for 10 years. In that instant, I realized I didn't even want to bother pretending to be nice to him anymore. Without hesitation, I grabbed Ethan Graves by the collar and shoved him hard against the tree behind him. He gasped sharply, but before he could speak, I slapped him full force across the face. His pale skin instantly reddened and swelled. I leaned close, spitting out each word through clenched teeth. I've known all along, you and Rachel had known each other before. You like her, don't you? Then why act the devoted lover in front of me, wanting to keep me while chasing after the only light in your life? You're no different from your birth mother, a woman who knew she was a mistress but shamelessly forced her way in. As soon as the words left my mouth, Ethan's eyes darkened. The emotions inside him surged like a violent storm, but he couldn't say a thing. I sneered coldly, released him, and without giving him another glance, turned and walked away. That night, I had a rare dream. I dreamt of what happened in my past life after I died. I saw the cake knife buried deep in Rachel's chest. I saw myself, in the midst of unbearable pain, dying in despair. And Rachel being rushed into the hospital for emergency care. Outside the ward, Ethan Graves grabbed David by the collar, his voice full of rage and grief. You said you'd handle everything. You said you'd protect her. David flung his hand away, his tone as cold as ice. I already agreed to share her with you. You're just an illegitimate son. Without my help, do you think you could ever control the Locke family? Don't overreach. Ethan staggered back several steps, his lips parting as if to retort. But as the words left his mouth, he suddenly fell silent. David's lips curled into a cold smile. That's right, it was my sister who helped you. But she's dead now. Remember who arranged the acid attack? It was you, Ethan Graves. Have you forgotten? Silence engulfed the space. Ethan stood frozen, saying nothing. On the door of the emergency room, the red danger light kept flashing. A long while later, the doctor pushed the door open, voice calm yet chilling. The patient has not passed the critical stage. Ethan trembled slightly. He stared fixedly at Rachel's pale face, drained of all color. A second later, his gaze shifted faintly, and he spoke in a voice so calm it was terrifying. I never forgot, and I never regretted it. I jolted awake from the dream. A wave of nausea surged, and I stumbled into the bathroom, clutching the toilet as I dry-heaved for a long time. Only when I finally raised my head did I see my reflection in the mirror, eyes bloodshot, filled with towering hatred. I whispered, my own voice chilling even to myself. No regrets, huh? That's fine, in this life, I'll make you regret it. Regret ever being born into this world. Just wait and see. On the day of the anniversary, as I passed the artificial lake on campus, I happened to run into Rachel. She was wearing a silver dress, elegant yet refined, with a sparkling diamond necklace around her neck. I didn't need to guess, it was obviously a gift from David to appease her. Rachel stood before me, her tone sharp, her eyes cold and brimming with hatred. Isabella, do you think your Locke family status can protect you forever? You've bullied me for so long, did you really think I wouldn't fight back? I'll make you pay 100, 1,000 times over. So what if you know what kind of relationship I have with Ethan Graves? He loves me. And your brother loves me too. You'll never have the love of anyone in this lifetime. She rambled on with arrogance and triumph. I smiled faintly, raised a brow, and replied with just one sentence. How did the toilet water taste? Rachel's expression instantly shifted. I calmly turned away, leaving her standing there, her face flushing red and paling white, too enraged to speak. That afternoon, the sun blazed red like fire, its rays stretching to the horizon. My dance team and I had already changed into our luxurious gowns, skirts swishing as we hurried toward backstage. Halfway there, I suddenly realized, the special prop for the finale was missing. I frowned, trying to recall, had I left it in the practice room? Want me to come with you? Sophie asked anxiously. I shook my head and smiled. No need. It's not heavy, I can carry it myself. You all head backstage first. Once you're done with makeup, talk to the stage manager and help me rearrange the props. With that, I turned and headed straight to the multi-purpose building. The place was silent, not a soul around. My glittering gown shimmered with golden light as I climbed the stairs toward the practice room. But just as I reached the landing, I froze. Ahead, a few steps above, someone was blocking the way. The crimson sunset streamed through the window, casting half his face in shadow. Only his eyes gleamed, deep and unfathomable like a bottomless whirlpool. Ethan Graves. He opened his mouth, his voice low and stormy. Isabella, what are you planning to do? I smirked, my tone laced with undisguised contempt. What the hell does it matter to you? Stay away from me. I lifted my dress and strode forward. But the moment I brushed past him, a powerful hand clamped down on my shoulder. For an instant, my mind went blank, I couldn't even react. The next second, I was shoved backward. Behind me stretched a towering flight of stairs. My body lost balance and plummeted down. Bang! My back slammed against the steps, pain tearing through every nerve. The force was so great I couldn't stabilize myself, and I tumbled down, each sharp edge smashing into my bones, the agony nearly wiping my mind blank. Finally, my body crashed into the iron railing. My ankle twisted at a grotesque angle. A small crack echoed, something had snapped. Pain shot up my leg like fire, as if my bone had shattered. Step by step, Ethan Graves descended slowly, stopping beside me. His calm eyes stared down at me, the fading sunset painting half his face with chilling indifference. His voice was icy enough to freeze the air. Isabella, don't blame me. You've had everything since childhood. Even if you miss this chance, countless roads still await you. But Rachel isn't like you. She's given her all, and this is the only chance she has left. Then he crouched. His cold hand clutched my ankle. Before I could react, he used all his strength, slamming my leg brutally against the iron railing. Crash! The pain was so intense it felt like every bone in my leg had shattered. The image from my dream flashed through my mind, him standing outside the hospital ward with David, his eyes filled with tenderness as he watched Rachel wheeled out of the emergency room. But when it came to me, his voice was chillingly indifferent. I never regretted. Had I really spent the best 15 years of my life, given the fiercest and most sincere love, to someone like this? I burst out laughing. Just as Ethan Graves raised my leg again to smash it down, I wrenched free, yanking my foot from his grasp. My voice came out cold as steel. Pathetic. My ankle screamed in agony, breath hitching from the pain, but I gritted my teeth. While he was still stunned, I seized his hair and slammed his head hard against the iron railing. Thud. The sound reverberated through the stairwell. His forehead struck the sharp corner, blood instantly spilling down, dripping into the pristine collar of his white shirt. His body trembled, eyes blurring with pain, pupils unfocused. "I.S.A., Bella," he rasped my name. I inhaled deeply, released his hair, and slowly stood. My ankle throbbed with every movement, but I ignored it. Bending down, I stared into his pained, dazed eyes, then let a slow, deliberate smile spread across my lips. "How touching, my dear young master. All to elevate your crush, you'd sacrifice even my life without hesitation? Is this David's warning to me? The two of you decided long ago to share her, didn't you?" My smile twisted, mocking and nauseating. I lifted my gown, wiping away his blood from his face. Red smeared across the pale fabric, blotching into grotesque patterns. Then I left him there, swallowed by the darkening shadows. I rushed straight toward the main hall. From afar, the soft notes of a piano drifted through the night. Rachel was still playing the same piece from my past life, Debussy's Clair de Lune. On stage, she sat before a gleaming white piano, clad in her sparkling silver dress. Everything around her was pitch black, except for a single spotlight shining down, making her appear like the only star blazing in the night sky. Just like before, when she had stepped over my bones to reach the peak, dazzling to the point of disgust. I bolted down the aisle between rows of seats, straight toward the stage. Security and the MC hurried to block me, but I tore free from their grasp, scrambling up onto the platform. Under the stunned gaze of the entire audience, I stood in the spotlight. 1 second later. Bang! I kicked Rachel off the bench. The piano music stopped abruptly. She crashed hard onto the floor, eyes wide in shock and panic. I didn't give her a chance to react. I swung my fist down onto the piano lid. "Play. Play. Play. I'll make you play." I screamed, my voice shrill with madness. "You sent your tail-wagging dog to hurt me, and you still have the face to sit here playing piano?" Bang! I stomped hard on the keys. A piercing noise rang through the hall. Of course I knew, the special admissions professor David had invited was sitting right there in the audience. In my past life, it was after hearing this very Clair de Lune performance that he had sought out Rachel, offering her the sole direct admission spot. She had accepted. That was only the first step on her bright future. Under David's careful arrangements, she had later been taken in as a disciple by one of the world's greatest music masters. And me? Because of a film, I had to play the role of an autistic piano prodigy. My agent arranged for me to learn from that same master. But after just one meeting with Rachel, that very night David blocked me at the door, his voice dripping with disgust and contempt. "Isabella, you still won't stop. Just because you can't match Rachel, you hated her enough to tear up the music score she wrote by hand for the teacher? You're vile." I had been stunned for several seconds. By the time I tried to explain, he had already flung my hand away, coldly cutting me off. Lying to this extent? No matter what excuse you give, I won't believe a word. Back to the present. The entire hall erupted. The audience shouted in chaos. Someone cried out in shock. Blood! Her dress is covered in blood. I finally looked down. My gorgeous gown was soaked red, blood and dirt smeared into grotesque stains. My hair was disheveled, matted. My legs swollen, ankles bruised, my whole body marked with wounds, as if I had been through torture. Slowly, I lifted my head. My eyes shimmered with tears. Every detail of my appearance screamed one truth: I had been attacked. Across from me, Rachel trembled, propping herself up on the piano, staggering to her feet. Hatred flickered in her eyes, whirling for an instant. But quickly, she calmed herself, reverting to her usual weak, innocent facade. She looked up, her voice trembling. "Senior Isabella, I don't know what you're talking about, maybe there's been some misunderstanding. But right now it's my performance. Out of respect for the audience, you shouldn't interrupt." At that moment, David shot up from his seat, fury twisting his face. "Isabella, are you insane?" I ignored him. Under countless stunned stares, I brushed Rachel aside and calmly sat down at the piano. Thunderous, powerful notes burst out. I played Beethoven's Symphony of Fate. In my past life, for a film that required me to play piano for real, not with a double, I had practiced relentlessly for 3 months. I hadn't reached a master's level, but for this moment, it was more than enough. The grand, unyielding sound filled the hall. The music roared, mingling with faint static from the sound system, reverberating against the high ceiling. Suddenly, silence fell. No one spoke. No one could look away from the stage. Each note seemed to pound directly into their minds. As the final note rang out, I turned slowly, my gaze locking onto Rachel, my voice cold as ice. "You ruined my birthday party. You turned my brother against me. You slandered me before friends and family. For all of that, I will answer you in kind." I paused. Seeing Rachel's face go pale, blood draining away, I smirked, each word like a knife cutting into flesh. "But, sending Ethan Graves to shove me down the stairs, just so I wouldn't stand on this stage? And you didn't even have the courage to face me fairly? Weren't you so proud of your piano skills? Why are you so afraid to compete against me?" My tone was sharp, dripping with mockery. The entire stage and hall descended into chaos. At last, the teacher in charge of the program rushed up to pull both Rachel and me off. The MC hurried to smooth things over, continuing the show. The next act was the classical dance I had choreographed with my classmates. As I passed the backstage area, I saw the girls already lined up. Sophie, eyes red, ran over and grabbed my hand, her voice trembling. "You're hurt, aren't you? I should have gone with you." I gently patted her head, smiling softly. "I'm fine. Go on stage. We've practiced for so long, let's do our best." The first prize is $5,000. From the start, I didn't choreograph this just for myself. Standing in the shadows, I watched them step onto the stage. At last, my heart eased. Then I closed my eyes. Pain and exhaustion crashed over me like a wave, drowning every sense. Hospital. My consciousness sank into darkness. When I woke again, I was in a hospital bed. That night, David stormed into the ward. He was raging, his voice booming the moment he entered. "Crazy. Isabella, you really are insane." His plan had been to raise the girl he loved step by step, to place her at the brightest peak, tending to her like a delicate flower until she bloomed, bringing him ultimate satisfaction. "But brother, did you think I'd let you have that chance?" I tilted my head, smiling with provocation. So what now, brother? Your beloved not only failed to finish her performance, but your scheme to break my leg has already been exposed. From now on, she'll never set foot in the school of her dreams. Then I remembered something. My smile deepened, twisting into scorn. I laughed coldly, staring straight at David. Oh, right, your accomplice, Ethan Graves, is still lying flat on the floor of the multi-purpose building. If you've got time, don't forget to send him to the hospital. Gripping the edge of my leg, I burst out laughing. My injured ankle twitched, pain ripping through me, contorting my features. In David's eyes, my reflection now was that of a madwoman, my gaze blazing as if a fire burned within. Or perhaps, from the day I died in my previous life, I had already gone insane. His facial muscles twitched, anger flashing briefly in his eyes, but he forced it down. His expression returned to that familiar cold arrogance. He sneered, his tone dripping with contempt. So what, Isabella? Even if Rachel fails, you won't be able to perform your dance anyway. And today, your crazed behavior has been caught on camera. This time, a fake doctor's note won't fool anyone. The school has already contacted our parents. They're preparing to process your withdrawal. Ha! I laughed aloud, unafraid. I met his arrogant eyes, every word as sharp as a blade. Just dropping out. Do you think I care? Don't forget, we are both Locke family heirs. Like Ethan Graves said, even if I lose this road, I still have countless others. I tilted my head, smiling radiantly. From the start, my only goal was simple, to drag Rachel away from the light she longed for. That's all. In my last life, she framed me with crimes I never committed. In this life, I'll make them true. Every path she takes, I'll block step by step. We're far from finished, Rachel. I had stirred chaos at the celebration, even beaten both Ethan Graves and Rachel before everyone. The incidents of me bullying Rachel at school had already been pushed online, sparking a storm of public opinion. The struggle between a wealthy heiress and a poor transfer student, whether 10 years ago or 10 years later, was always enough to set the internet ablaze. But this time, it was different. Because I had stood on stage and spoken every word clearly. Because of my battered appearance. Because of Beethoven's Fate Symphony. Furious, unyielding. This time, not everyone sided with Rachel anymore. Not sure it's really the rich girl bullying the poor one. Just hearing her play. I don't believe she's that kind of person. Oh please, fortune tellers now. Judging character from piano notes? But seriously, look at her leg. It's swollen like a bun. Her body's covered in blood. Who bullies someone else and ends up like this themselves? Doesn't matter right or wrong, her spirit is incredible, like someone living in wartime. Even Sophie and the girls from the dance team jumped online, arguing with commenters. What are you talking about? Isabella isn't like that. Rachel shamelessly provoked her first. Online, the debates raged, attacks flying from both sides. But I couldn't be bothered. During the days I lay in the hospital, I didn't know what David had told our parents. I only knew that when I was discharged, he looked at me, his voice colder than ever. Just a short time without supervision, and you've already gone lawless like this. The school won't take you back. So go study abroad, stay out of sight. Wait until the storm passes, then return. My father's stance didn't surprise me. Between David and me, he always chose his son first. In my past life, when the engagement scandal erupted, father was still alive. David staged such a spectacle that it couldn't be hidden from him. But until the day I died, he never said a word to me. It didn't matter anymore. I curled my lips into a faint smile. Fine. Father nodded, his voice calm. You've always wanted to study acting. I'll help you apply to a top arts academy. No, I cut him off suddenly. I want to study finance. I'll enroll in business school. Both father and David froze. Father stared at me, his eyes slowly deepening with thought. My admission paperwork was completed quickly. Meanwhile, Ethan Graves was still hospitalized, his injuries far worse than mine. Word had it Rachel visited him, comforting him, saying none of this was his fault, only that he had been too heartless. Sophie, clutching a bouquet of white lilies of the valley, plopped down on the sofa with a scowl. She pouted. What a perfect scumbag couple. They're the ones who tried to break your leg, yet somehow you're the heartless one. Tell me, where's the heartlessness in that? I lazily glanced at the flowers in her arms. Those are expensive, aren't they? That prize money was meant for you all to keep for yourselves. Sophie smiled lightly, shoving the bouquet into my hands. It's fine. Everyone chipped in, knowing you're going abroad. We wanted to send you off with flowers. She took a deep breath as if gathering courage, her voice hesitant. Isabella, I always felt like you knew something I don't. Since the day Rachel transferred here, something's been different, though I can't explain it. If I'm rambling nonsense, just ignore me. Then she set the flowers aside and hugged me gently. Come back soon, okay? When you return, we'll still be friends. The night before leaving, I sat on the balcony, letting the night wind wash over me. My mother sat beside me, her eyes tinged with worry, as if she wanted to say something but held back. I took her hand, looked straight into her eyes, and whispered softly. Don't worry about me, Mother. In my past life, she had died in a car accident. While she lived, no matter how much Father favored David, my brother never dared to lay a hand on me. Thinking of this, a pang seized my heart. In that past life, David had eventually lost his mind completely over Rachel. A chilling thought crept into me, was Mother's car accident truly an accident? My chest tightened. Unconsciously, I gripped her hand tighter, my voice laced with warning. Mother, you must be careful. Protect yourself well. I paused, then finally decided to add. And be wary of David too. She looked at me in stunned confusion, then sighed softly. My little she, you're not the same as before. She smiled bitterly, shaking her head. That's my fault. You used to be so naive, believing everything anyone said. I told you that young boy couldn't be trusted, yet you defended him. He wasn't who you thought he was. Even on your birthday, when I wanted your father to grant you shares, you laughed and said a pretty dress and jewelry were enough. You nearly drove me mad. Back then, Mother only wished I could be wiser, sharper. But if such change had to be bought with pain, she would rather I remained as naive as before. What mother in this world does not understand her own daughter? In my past life, I truly was a fool. Always judging others with my greatest kindness, so Rachel trapped me again and again, yet I never truly took revenge. And so, in the end, I died at my own engagement party. Mother's eyes reddened. She gently stroked my hair, smiling faintly. This world has always been one where the strong devour the weak. A kind fool can only end up as prey. Sadly, to understand that truth, you had to die. Die once. At 18, I carried my luggage abroad. The people, the environment, the opportunities, everything was foreign. But I felt no fear. Because I knew too much about the future. I didn't remember every little detail, but the key milestones were enough to let me change many things. And most important was what would happen 2 years later. In my past life, when I turned 20, David learned of a man named Adam through some source. He then flew to San Francisco to meet him personally. Adam held the most advanced core technology. Within just 5 years, he had helped David completely seize the Locke clan conglomerate, raising him to the peak of power. But in this life, I would not allow it. I invested the money mother gave me into the stock market. With the fragments of memory from my past life, I multiplied my starting capital many times. At the same time, I doubled my coursework and poured my earnings into several startups that, in my past life, had all made the Fortune 500 list. For now, most of these companies were still in their infancy. But I knew very well, they were the dragons of the future. During this time, Sophie kept in frequent contact. She called once a week, sharing news from back home, sometimes saying the dance team missed me, other times how much her life had improved since receiving the prize money. Then one day, her voice was filled with glee. "Isabella, guess what? The Juilliard School just held open auditions, and Rachel participated." I raised a brow. "And?" She failed right at the interview." Sophie laughed so hard she could barely breathe, then lowered her voice mysteriously. "Guess who interviewed her? The professor who was at the school festival that year. He said her interpretation was muddy, emotionless, nothing compared to your Fate symphony." I smirked, a cool smile tugging at my lips. "Of course. Because in this life, I've stolen all her glory. You know what? When Rachel left the interview, she clung to her loyal dog, Ethan Graves, and cried her eyes out. And the more pitifully she cried, the more I laughed." Sophie burst into hearty laughter. I smiled faintly too, but mine was far colder. Because this war was far from over. When I received Sophie's message, I was in the middle of finals for 2 majors. My head was spinning from the pressure when I read the short line glowing on my phone screen. "College exam results are out. I ranked first in school, third in the whole city." I curved my lips, a genuine smile finally appearing. "Congratulations." She replied almost instantly. "Isabella, I'm still waiting for you to come back so we can stay friends." Mother often called too, asking about my life abroad, slipping in news about David. Sometimes she worried whether I had enough money. Whenever I briefly mentioned what I was working on, she would sigh helplessly. "You're still just a young girl. Don't push yourself too hard. If you need anything, tell me, don't hold back." I paused, then said slowly, "Mother, I need you to investigate someone." I gave her Adam's name, along with what fragments I recalled from my past life. Before ending the call, I emphasized one thing. "Whatever happens, you must keep this from David." I arrived in San Francisco a month earlier than David. On my first day, while asking for directions, I suddenly spotted a very familiar face on the lawn near campus. Adam. He was a few years younger than I remembered, his features still boyish. Standing before him was a tall, slender girl with short hair and glasses, her sharp eyes cold as steel. She glared at him, her voice cutting. "That was my research. Who gave you the right to take it for business talks?" Adam forced a smile, his tone coaxing. "Don't say that. You're part of this too. Didn't we both work on it?" The girl scoffed, her words laced with scorn. "The idea was mine. I ran the experiments. You only recorded data for a short while. And you think you have the right to claim this project?" Adam's face darkened, his jaw tight. "Clara Monroe, don't be unreasonable. We're about to graduate. I'm only thinking about our future. Keeping it in your hands does nothing. Wouldn't partnering with a reliable company be the best outcome?" Clara didn't move, her voice colder still. "I'll say this one last time, it's mine. The patent is with me. You don't even know the core technology. Still want to collaborate with someone? As long as I live, forget it. And one more thing, this is the end. We're breaking up. You and I have nothing to do with each other anymore." With that, she turned on her heel, walking away with resolute steps. Adam froze, staring at her retreating figure. His gaze shifted from rage to icy calculation. He stepped back, the corner of his lips curling into an intrigued smile. Seems this game will be more interesting than I thought. For an instant, a chilling glint of killing intent flashed in Adam's eyes. I stood still, a clear thought searing through me. In my past life, I had once overheard Rachel asking David, "Brother, how do you control a talent like Adam?" Back then, he had only smirked, wrapping his arm around her as they lounged by the pool, his voice lazy but confident. Because he has something he needs from me. More importantly, in my past life I had never once heard the name Clara Monroe, never found a single trace of her existence. Yet here she was now, standing right before me. She was the one who had created the core technology Adam wanted to steal. A vital piece in this grand game had revealed itself. Narrowing my eyes, the corner of my lips curved, my gaze sharpening. It seemed I had found a new trump card for this war. I arranged a meeting with Clara, finally catching her at a cafe far from her campus. Sitting across from me, she wasted no time, going straight to the point. "Miss Isabella, I know why you sought me out. But I will not sell my research." I asked calmly. "Why not?" She hesitated briefly, then answered. "Because right now it's still unfinished." My hand, holding the coffee cup, stilled. She continued, her voice filled with conviction. "I know for business people like you, commercial value is everything. But that doesn't matter to me. What matters is the end result, whether it can truly advance human science and technology. To me, its intrinsic value outweighs everything else." I held her gaze. As she spoke of her ideals, her plain, makeup-free face shone with brilliance. She was radiant, a woman destined to become a great scientist, to leave her mark on history. But in my past life, because of the selfish desires of two men, she had died abroad, just a speck of dust crushed by the wheel of time, vanishing without a trace. She rose, her voice calm. "Miss Isabella, if that's all, I'll be leaving now." As she turned, I lifted a hand to stop her. She frowned slightly, but showed no anger. I looked straight into her eyes, my tone sincere yet firm. "Miss Clara, I am willing to fund every cost and resource you need for your research. All I ask is that you finish your work. Once you succeed, I'll only request one small favor in return. The achievement will remain yours, history will remember your name. Is that acceptable?" When I returned home, the first snow of the season blanketed the ground. Dragging my suitcase out of the airport, the first thing I saw was a massive billboard. On it was Rachel's flawlessly made-up face. In the years I spent building my company and preparing to face David head-on, she had not idled either. After failing her special admissions chance and being rejected at auditions, David had arranged for her to enter the film academy. From there, she had officially stepped into the entertainment industry. Always the same, through and through. I sneered, mocking to myself. Trash that still claws desperately for the peak. Then I got into the car. Through snowy traffic, it drove straight to my company's building. 3 days later, the most important bidding conference was to be held, a crucial milestone for me to stand as David's equal. For 3 straight days, Clara and I practically lived in the office, refining our proposal to perfection. At last, during the public bidding session, everything went as planned. My company, Crystalline Lotus, was declared the winner. As the name was announced, I stood slowly, turning my head to meet David's stunned eyes. "Mr. David," I let a smile curl at my lips. "Long time no see, brother." After the bidding concluded, he chased me down the corridor, blocking my way. His voice shook with anger and disbelief, as if he still couldn't accept it. "Crystalline Lotus is yours? Clara's disappearance all this time, was it you who hid her?" I laughed, my gaze dripping with mockery. "What's the rush, David. I leaned in, deliberately lowering my voice. You and Clara were never even close. Why are you so desperate to find her? Or is there something I don't know? I blinked, tilting my head, my smile provocative. Surely you weren't planning anything illegal? David's eyes narrowed, his gaze suddenly sharp. I laughed again, unhurried, then turned and walked away, leaving him rooted in place. This time back home, I didn't bother hiding. After securing the major contract, I actively networked, connecting with prominent figures in business. With Clara's exclusive patent rights and the victory snatched from Locke clan's hands, everyone treated me with the utmost courtesy. Such warm reception, something I never received even after winning 3 Best Actress awards in my past life. I swirled a glass of red wine, watching the dark liquid shimmer, and mused aloud. As expected, only when you hold the means of production in your hands do people treat you with true value. Beside me, Sophie studied me carefully, eyes tracing me up and down. How is it that after just 4 years abroad, you seem to have matured by decades? I shrugged, smiling faintly. That's normal. At 18 you can still rely on youth to act recklessly. But once you've graduated, if you want to bare your fangs at the world, you must first learn to wear the mask of refinement. With that, I raised my paddle, calmly calling out a bid of 2 million. At that instant, Rachel suddenly turned her head, staring straight at me. Ethan Graves, seated beside her, also lifted his gaze, his eyes locking onto mine. For a moment, I clearly saw the flicker of shock in his expression. Studying him closely, I spotted the faint scar on his forehead. Suddenly, I found it amusing. Ethan quickly recovered, immediately raising his paddle, 2.6 million. I smiled, I had guessed it from the start. This diamond bracelet, he wanted to buy it for Rachel, as her birthday was only days away. No matter how hard he fought within the Graves clan, he could never compare to David's absolute grip on the Locke clan. To compete, Ethan could only seek favor in other ways. I continued bidding, deliberately driving the price higher bit by bit. Watching him grit his teeth and pay 6 million for the bracelet, I gave a cool smile. Truly devoted. Ethan clutched the bracelet tightly, his eyes dark, staring at me in silence for a long moment. Then he whispered. Isabella. I immediately stepped back, feigning disgust, my tone dripping with scorn. Oh, spare me. Hearing you say my name makes me want to vomit. Afterward, I gave him a slow, sweeping glance from head to toe and let out a cold laugh. Compared to your mistress, at least you've shown more skill than she ever did. After all, you managed to claw your way up to the position of the official wife. I deliberately lowered my voice, lips curling as I asked. But I'm curious, how do you and my dear brother divide your schedules? Do you get Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays while he takes Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, and on Sundays the 3 of you get together? I had no intention of keeping my voice down. As expected, after the auction ended, plenty of business figures approached me, curious. I wore an embarrassed look, but in the end, pretended to reluctantly reveal. Oh, it's nothing. My brother and young Master Graves just happen to both fancy the same actress. Affairs of the heart, everyone has someone they can't resist. For love, people will endure anything. The next day, rumors exploded everywhere. Not only about the 3 of them, but I also began funneling money into the entertainment industry, backing new actresses. I stole away several major roles that, in my past life, had belonged to Rachel. Of course, David couldn't tolerate his bright moon being suppressed. He struck back immediately. And this was exactly what I had been waiting for. If he didn't make a move, how else could he expose a weakness for me to seize? Suddenly, my name shot up the hot searches, paired with headlines like Crystalline Lotus Company. Founder Isabella accused of school bullying. Hot news, Isabella spreading vile rumors. Hot news, Rachel bullied again. The video from the school anniversary, when I smashed Rachel's piano, was dredged up once more. But this time, they conveniently cut out the part where I played Beethoven's Fate Symphony. Not only that, they contacted my old classmates for testimony. Yes, back in high school Isabella openly hated Rachel. She tore up her test papers, poured ink in her desk, even incited the whole class to ostracize her. But since she was a rich heiress, Rachel couldn't do anything, only endure. Later, the scandal broke out, and Isabella was expelled. But soon after she studied abroad, cleaned up her image, and now she's returned, rebranding herself as a brilliant entrepreneur. In the video, the male student spoke with righteous indignation, his face burning with anger. My company's stock price plummeted for days. Partners began calling, hinting for explanations. I knew that without a convincing response, contracts would be suspended. Twisting the fountain pen in my hand, my tone stayed calm on the phone. Just wait a little longer. We're all business people here, you should know better than anyone, don't strike until you're certain of victory. Luckily, Rachel had far less patience than I thought. She hated me even more than in my past life. Seeing me smeared online, she couldn't hold back. She rushed to host a live stream. On camera, she feigned hesitation, her voice soft with sorrow and nostalgia. I still remember so clearly when the teacher asked me to read aloud. Because I went to elementary school in the countryside, where teachers had to cover every subject, I only learned English half-heartedly. She began her pitiful tale, her eyes glistening with tears. I smirked, quietly picked up my phone, and started dialing. She wanted to act in front of me. Let's see if she could keep crying after this. It's embarrassing to admit, but the first time I realized my pronunciation was wrong, was when she laughed at me. Rachel lowered her head slightly, voice tinged with self-mockery. But her eyes were already shimmering with a mist of tears. She went on. For the school festival performance, I also prepared for so long. I've studied piano for over 10 years. Her voice pretended calm, but the longer she spoke, the sadder it sounded. The live chat exploded. Whether it was real netizens or paid bots, comments flooded in. Sweetheart, you were wonderful, don't be ashamed. Isabella is shameless. Who is she to laugh at someone who worked so hard? And yet, was I the only one who noticed the flaw? She said she studied in a rural village, where even English teachers were scarce. Yet she also claimed she had been learning piano for over 10 years. Since when did rural schools have pianos? I chuckled, reading that single sharp comment, but it was quickly drowned out by the flood of sympathetic messages. Still, only a few sharp eyes were enough to spot her lies. That night, her live stream drew over 5 million viewers. Once again, Rachel shot to the top of the trending charts, while I was mercilessly torn apart online. The next morning, my father summoned me home. He roared furiously. Merge Crystalline Lotus into Lock Clan immediately. After years abroad, you've learned nothing. Barely back a few days and already stirring up trouble. Hand over the company to the family and hold a press conference to apologize publicly. I looked at him calmly, speaking slowly, each word deliberate. First, get one thing straight. It was my brother's girlfriend who staged the stunt, not my company. Why should it all be pinned on me as bullying her? He slammed the table, his eyes red with rage. If you keep being this stubborn, don't blame me for disowning you as my daughter. I smiled faintly, my voice cool. Oh. Then I suppose you've forgotten. The one who gave birth to me, who carried me for 10 months, was my mother, wasn't it? Not long after, Lock Clan and Graves Clan officially announced their partnership. I curled my lips, unsurprised. At last, they revealed their hand. Lock Clan and Graves Clan moved together, stripping Crystalline Lotus of several major projects. My father even publicly declared he was severing ties with me, shouting to the media. I have no such vicious daughter. She's unworthy of the Locke name. At parking lot C, I was nearly doused with acid by one of Rachel's rabid fans. Had I not reacted quickly, the scene from my past life would have repeated. Worse, my father secretly conspired with David. They planned to use my old medical records from high school, along with footage of me going mad at the school festival, to have me committed to a mental institution. Past life or present, they relied on the same dirty tricks. But unfortunately for them, I was no longer the same me. If they wanted to play this game, I had no problem playing it to the end. My counterattack had officially begun. For now, it looked as if I was losing ground, powerless to fight back. And just then, Rachel won her first beauty pageant crown, and her birthday was coming. David threw her a lavish celebration, extravagantly decorated, even inviting fans to attend. The event was live-streamed, drawing millions of viewers. On stage, Rachel wore a pure white dress and sweetly thanked her fans. The entire hall erupted in applause, the atmosphere more electric than ever. Then came the video message segment. The giant screen behind her lit up. The footage began to play, slightly blurry, the angle hidden as if filmed in secret. In the video, inside a film set dressing room, an actress stood before the mirror adjusting her costume. Suddenly, Rachel rushed over and slammed into her. Next, she grabbed the actress's hand and slapped herself hard across the face. The other actress froze, eyes wide in disbelief. But Rachel gave a cold smile. Who do you think you are to steal a role from me? Who gave you permission to compete with me and make me your supporting actress? Do you know who my boyfriend is? He's the CEO of the Locke clan, David. Just wait. When he sees the injury on my face, you'd better think about how you'll live after your video of bullying a colleague goes public and you're completely blacklisted. The entire auditorium fell into a deathly silence. The audience was stunned, reporters shell-shocked, fans gaping. Only I sat in the shadows, quietly lifting my wine glass, taking a small sip, and slowly curling my lips into a smile. Now this is a proper birthday present. Rachel, how are you going to cry your way out of this one? The screen kept rolling. In the video, Rachel's gaze dropped to the actress's chest, the corner of her mouth lifting with suggestive meaning. In that instant, Rachel let out a piercing scream and lunged forward, trying to block the screen. Too late. The hall detonated. Fans exploded, reporters reeled, chatter roared from every corner. Instantly, Rachel's and David's names shot to the top of the trending lists. Hashtag Rachel, my boyfriend is David. Hashtag Rachel's birthday live stream. Hashtag Rachel bullied again. Comments under the posts skyrocketed. Beside me, Sophie clutched her phone, fingers flying as she furiously typed. Rachel, do you get bullied everywhere you go? Is the whole world in the wrong but you? Her comment was blasted with likes, climbing straight to the top of the hot replies. Netizens launched a full-on assault. God, she literally grabbed someone's hand to slap herself. That's some vicious play. Look at that swollen face. How else do you prove you were bullied? Don't call her Rachel, call her Rabbitch. If I remember right, the film that got her the pageant crown, the original female lead wasn't her, was it? There was a hotter actress before, then suddenly a nude photo scandal and she was blacklisted. So when the audition failed, someone leaned on slander to steal the role, huh? I sat there and lifted the glass to my lips again, taking a slow sip. Truly, nothing tops a birthday present like this. Rachel, how are you planning to play Saint this time? While the internet still raged, another video suddenly climbed the charts. It was shot at a foreign university. In frame were international students with different hair and eye colors. After one female international student spoke, a group burst out laughing, mimicking her imperfect pronunciation. A scrawny, arrogant blonde repeated her English in a posh British accent, then mocked. Know what this is? This is real British pronunciation. The very next second, I grabbed him by the collar and drove a punch straight into his face. The camera shook violently. My voice rang out, clear and razor-sharp from my cold lips. What's so funny? Do you laugh like this at your father's funeral too? The blonde, livid, yelled for a one-on-one fight, but wound up taking another punch from me. I lifted his chin with the toe of my shoe, a faint smile on my lips as I spoke slowly. Know what this is? This is called feminism, you mangy mutt. I wasn't the one who posted that clip. It was filmed and uploaded by an ordinary American student studying there. She added this note. I'm a girl from the slums too. I was nearly homeless the day I was born. But unlike Miss Rachel, my street didn't have a piano, and there wasn't a generous sponsor handing me $1,000 a month. There was only a girl like me, who needed nearly 30 years to find the courage to leave that street. On my first day studying abroad, I was mocked. I couldn't take it. When I see someone twisting truth and smearing the person who once helped me, I have to speak up. In the comments below, the internet boiled over. Wait, am I seeing things? Isn't that the school bully, Isabella, in the video? Finally, someone telling the truth. Who believes a rural girl studied piano for over 10 years? The logic doesn't add up. And yet a ton of people swallowed it. If Isabella is a bully, then I wish I'd meet more bullies like her. I sat before the screen, quietly taking another sip of wine. Rachel, how much longer can you keep this pure moonlight act going? Damn, big sis is badass. Hold up, wasn't Rachel's benefactor David? And David is Isabella's biological brother. Is it possible he smeared his sister on purpose to fight her for the family assets? Right after that, another video surfaced, footage from my 18th birthday party, proving everything that had been hidden. Images from years ago, Rachel jumping off a rooftop to secure tuition sponsorship, then pinning the blame on another girl at the orphanage for pushing her. The surveillance video that had been buried for years finally hit the web. But that wasn't all. Evidence that David hired someone to kill Clara, his dirty dealings with my father, from project theft and bid rigging to murder for silence to manipulate the Locke clan, every filthy operation was dragged into the light. And finally, the truth about Ethan Graves. He had manipulated his own mother for 3 years, slowly breaking her down, then forced her to commit suicide right in front of his father, all to secure a foot in the Graves household. I poured money like water, gathering every piece of evidence from my past and present lives, and pushed them onto the hot searches one by one. Thanks to their earlier theatrics, the audience for this scandal had already swelled into the tens of millions. Now, at the climax, the crowd erupted. Holy hell! What is this? Started with smearing a young businesswoman, and now it's a pile of murder cases? For real? Actual murderers. Call the police, what are we waiting for? The police were bombarded with reports. The situation spun completely out of control, no one could bury it anymore. Those who thought they could manipulate public opinion ended up being buried alive by it. I leaned back in my chair, slowly lifted my wine glass, and took a quiet sip. Watching one name after another plummet into the abyss, I curved my lips faintly and whispered. Is this ending, to your satisfaction? The day my father and David were arrested, my mother tossed a divorce paper onto the table. David's eyes went red, roaring at her in disbelief. Mom, I'm your son too. Why do you favor Isabella? I'm your son as well. My mother took a sip of tea, answering calmly. Your father favored you. So I favored your sister. The world has always been fair, hasn't it? At the same time, the projects Locke clan and Graves clan had stolen from me were exposed with scandal after scandal. Not only were they charged with murder, they also faced economic crimes. I bought out the bankrupt Locke clan, officially merging it into Crystalline Lotus. Afterward, I arranged a meeting with Venus Graves, Ethan Graves' half-sister. She was the legitimate daughter of the Graves family, born from a political marriage. She stirred her coffee slowly, speaking with composure. When I was young, I hated that woman. I thought she ruined my family. But later, I realized, if my father hadn't cheated, there never would have been someone named Ethan Graves. She gave a cold smile. To die at the hands of her own son, consider it her karma. A year ago, I had reached out to Venus. We struck a deal. I would help her oust Ethan from the Graves clan, and in return, she'd assist me with domestic influence, including pushing public opinion to its peak this time. Propping her chin on her hand, her eyes glinted with amusement. But I'm curious, how did you know his mother's suicide was connected to him? I curved my lips but didn't answer. Because in my previous life, he had done the same to me. Before the official verdict was handed down, I paid visits to my old friends in prison. The first was my brother. He clenched his fists, glaring at me like he wanted to tear me apart. I smiled faintly, mocking. Don't look at me like that, brother. I know what you want to ask. I sat down, lowered my voice, each word sharp as a knife. Thrown out like a stray dog, that was something I experienced once. Did you really think all those years abroad I was just wasting away in liquor and parties? During that time, I barely slept. Between studying and running a company, I hunted down every lead tied to you three. With the scraps of memory from my past life, I traced every thread, pieced together the evidence of your crimes. You were too practiced in your tricks, leaving almost no gaps. Which only proved this wasn't your first time. Evil doesn't just happen in front of me. In the shadows where I couldn't see, there had to be countless more. And I was right. I looked at him steadily, my tone biting. David, father always said I wasn't like his child. He raised you into a tyrant, a beast willing to trample laws for your goals. I laughed softly, voice light as a feather. Thankfully, I'm nothing like him. The second I visited was Rachel. Her hair was matted, her face sickly pale, her eyes burning with hatred so fierce it looked like she wanted to tear me apart through the glass. No longer the moonlight pure maiden, she had gone completely mad. She shrieked hoarsely. If you had the evidence, why didn't you reveal it earlier? I tilted my head, smiling faintly, feigning weakness. Was it fun? She screamed, her voice cracking with rage. Fun, my ass. I chuckled lightly, answering at ease. Oh, not fun. Then why pretend for so long? I rose slowly, my gaze sweeping over Rachel's crazed form in the cell. My smile was calm, but my tone was cruel. Of course. You had to believe you'd won. That's what makes it interesting. I could have exposed everything earlier, but where's the fun in that? I wanted you to think you'd reached the top, that everything was yours, that you'd won completely. Then, right at the dawn of your so-called glory, to watch it all collapse. To see every shred of honor, power, fame shattered in an instant. To stare helplessly as you fall into hell with no escape. Just like I did in my past life. This time, it's your turn. The last person I met was Ethan Graves. Truthfully, I hadn't planned to. Rachel had always been my enemy. David was blood. But Ethan? Once my love for him died, nothing tied us together anymore. But the police said he asked to see me, so I went. We sat separated by the glass. He was silent for a long time, only staring. Just as my patience wore thin and I began to rise, he spoke, voice barely a whisper. It shouldn't have been like this. I froze, frowning as I turned back. His dark eyes glimmered with unfathomable emotion. His voice was hoarse. The Locke family should have been mine. We should have been engaged. I burst out laughing. If not for the faint scar on his forehead, I would have thought he was the Ethan Graves from my past life. But the idea was absurd. I leaned closer, eyes dripping with ridicule. Just engaged? Why not say the rest? Didn't you once use me to seize everything from the Locke family, then join hands with David to kill me? His lips pressed tight, his eyes flickering. Finally, he murmured bitterly. But, much later, I regretted it. Only by then, you no longer knew. I threw my head back and laughed until my whole body shook. This was the most ridiculous story I'd ever heard. Then I narrowed my eyes at him, my words deliberate and sharp. That's right. I was already dead. Of course I didn't know. I pressed my hand against the glass, staring straight into his eyes, my voice low, each word sharp as a blade. But even if I did know, so what? Who cares about your regret? This time, the winner is me. The one who falls into hell is you, Ethan Graves. This is the ending you deserve. That winter came earlier than usual. By the time I walked out of the prison, the sky was already pitch black. The frigid air swept across my face, yet all I felt was comfort. My phone buzzed. It was Clara. Her tone was calm, though I could hear a trace of excitement beneath it. After Christmas, I'll be going abroad to start my new experiments at the Institute. The corner of my lips curved as I answered softly. Then I wish you smooth sailing. Do what you want without worry. I'll handle the remaining mess for you. A Twitter notification popped up on my screen. It was Sophie. We've already grabbed a table. Hurry over and pay the bill. Don't you dare ditch me. I stared at the screen for a moment, then couldn't help but laugh. All right, I'm on my way. Outside the car window, the crescent moon hung quietly in the night sky, casting its pale light over the darkness, delicate, understated, yet brilliantly beautiful. Tonight would pass. The moon would set. And when it did, my sun would rise again.